Welcome back to the Jackie Kaminsky Experience, where we break down the biggest myths, mistakes, and strategies in sports nutrition so you can actually perform at your best. And today we are talking about something that doesn't get enough attention in combat sports. What happens after the fight? Most fighters train like animals. They push their bodies to the absolute limits, but they don't think about what it might cost them until maybe it's too late. So that is why I'm honored to sit down with an absolute legend, and I'm also honored to call him my friend. Former UFC light heavyweight champ, Hall of Famer, and probably one of the most respected voices in MMA, Rashad Evans. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you for having me, Jackie. I'm excited to be here. Really excited to be here.
No, I appreciate it so much. I mean, we always talk, we always have such great conversations, and I don't know if we've talked about it, but I'm definitely talking about it a lot with a lot of other people in terms of I'm really trying to advocate for longevity with
Mm.
fighters in this space because, I mean, you've been through it, you know it all, the brutal weight cuts, the hard training sessions, and just this mentality that if you're not making yourself miserable and pushing yourself harder, then you're not doing it right. The reality of it is that I think it's hurting way more than it's helping. And now we're kind of getting some evidence to show that. So kind of for you, like what would you say has been like your evolution from when you started to where you are now?
Well, I was one of those athletes who would go and just tear my body to shreds. And I had coaches who thought and believed in the same thing. And it kind of comes from wrestling, from starting off,
Mhm.
from early in seventh grade, we would just beat the dog shit out of our bodies and just, push the limits. And it kind of just continued until I got to be a professional athlete. Still the same thing, training with Greg Jackson. The mindset was suffer now. That way you don't have to suffer in a fight, and the suffering will become in a physical form. But it all led down to the mental because you wanted to quit, you wanted to stop, and it was just the pushing through it physically that got you there mentally. But what you didn't really realize was just the wear and tear that it had on your body. And at first, when I was a young person, the recovery wasn't so bad. I'll just be sore for a day or two, and then, I would just be able to snap back. And you do that for so long with cutting weight, with abusing your body when you do have a fight and performance, and then you indulge in all the things you gave up, like bad food, alcohol, and staying up late and really not treating your body how you were when you're in training camp. After a while, the wear and tear does start to add up, and I we would do the crazy things like we would run at 14,000 uh, um, 14,000 miles high, 14,000 feet up with at the Sandia Mountains with Greg Jackson doing doing buddy carries and just doing like just beating the dog hell out of our body. And it was just the way the way that it was supposed to be. But as I started to get on in years and realize that I just couldn't really physically do it anymore. But then I started to realize that because I've done it so much in my past, I've had my conditioning built up in a strange way. Like I had my lung capacity was strong, and I felt like I had really good conditioning just built in without even doing anything. And I just kind of started to build upon that. But I started to do things that were less impactful for my body. I started to swim when I could. I started to ride the bike when I could instead of running and doing all the things that I used to do to just kind of put my body through it physically. I figured there's a way to physically do it, but then do it in a way that allows my body to have less impact so then I can use the impact for what I really needed the impact for, like sparring and other physical things that came for the sport.
Now, you said something interesting earlier, which I think is a mentality that every fighter has is suffer now, in training camp so you don't have to suffer in the fight. But do you think
Yeah.
that mentality, do you actually feel like you suffered less in your fights?
I think I have, to be honest. And I
Okay.
say that because, like, the fights were brutal, no doubt about it. But I was always able to find solace in the fact that, if I'm having a hard fight, I'll go back to the corner. And then my coach would tell me, hey, if the mountain can't beat you, then no man can beat you. And then that would give me that like belief in myself when I was just kind of like feeling a little bit tired. When I fought Michael Bisping, I was dead tired after the first round. And I go back to the corner and the coach is like, all right, we got two more rounds. And there's nothing worse. There's nothing in the world worse when you got your coach telling you all enthusiastically that you got 2 more rounds after you're dead tired after the first round, and you're just like, huh? I got how many? So yeah, so when you feel like that, and he's pushing you and then trying to get you to do more, it takes that belief in what you've done in training camp to kind of fortify that mental weakness when you feel like you're about to break because you feel tired.
Okay. So you think it more helped with the mental strength than the physical strength?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So, kind of what about the physical strength? I mean, at what point in your career, or let me backtrack a little bit, because I feel like obviously you've been training ever since you were really young to where you're at now. Like there was a way that you did it, and I'm sure that there was, if it's not broke, don't fix it type of mentality. But at what point in your career did you decide, it's time to make some changes? Like, what would you say was the best camp that you had, and what made it different than any other camp?
Yeah, so I would say what I used to do, I would go for like 5 mile runs like all the time. I'm saying like maybe every day or every other day, I will go on these long runs. And some of it was to get me in shape, but it was also for me to kind of start to tap into how I'm gonna feel on fight night. I would go and I would have like these daydreams, and I would just go and visualize how the fight's gonna end, what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna walk out, how I'm gonna do when I do this move, when I do that move, and just start really visualizing every aspect of the fight. And it was kind of me, mentally getting ready to put my body through something physical. And it was something that I just kind of felt like if I didn't do, then I wouldn't win. Like I would tell myself, okay, if I don't run like this week, then that means I'm not going to have a good fight, it's kind of crazy, and just like little arbitrary things like that, I would just mentally torment myself to do it. But the first camp, I really wasn't able to do it, and I had a great camp. It kind of started to shake that belief. I had a fight with Chael Sonnen, and I was traveling back and forth between South Florida in New Jersey training with Mark Henry and those guys, Frankie Edgar and those guys. And I had kind of like my knee was bothering me, and I kind of had some injuries where I couldn't run like I was before. So I had to start using the air bike, and I had to start swimming, and I had to do other things that was less impactful for my overall body. And I went to the fight and I felt great. I felt muscularly strong, like my muscles were just like I was ripped up. I felt just hungry. I didn't feel burned out. I went to the fight feeling fresh. There was no injuries going into the fight. I was kind of shocked at how fresh my body felt going into that fight. And I went out there, didn't feel like I would go in training because you do like a shakeout before every single fight and every single day leading up to the fight. And there was like I was going like 30 minutes straight without even getting tired at all, going hard. And I had to, because when you fight, we have to pull back a little bit. So up upon the shakeout window, I wasn't even getting tired. So I'm like, man, it's going to be a good weekend. And I went out there and had a great fight. It lasted, less than a round. So I was like, man, maybe I don't have to kill myself.
Yeah. So what when you like kind of had that realization, did your camps after that completely change?
Yeah, it did for the most part. But then when I started to lose, then I started to be like, maybe it's because I'm not working hard enough. You know what I'm saying? So that was the shake that, maybe I was thinking like I started to think like, you know what, maybe I'm not working hard enough again. So
Yeah.
but I did keep a few things that I liked about the camp that I had there. I kept the technical sparring
Mhm.
high, like because I had a really high technical sparring during that training camp, and I felt like the technical sparring did more for me than just the hard banging, trying to survive each and every single practice or trying to kill somebody. Because I feel like as an mixed martial artist, those are the rounds that put the most miles on you, and those are the
Yeah.
rounds that are so hard to predict whether you're going to make it to the fight because that's where you get hurt. Your finger gets caught in the cage, your ankle gets bent up, and those are the kind of nagging injuries that lead to bigger injuries down the road because you're trying to watch out for the little nag that you have here, which ends up leading to a bigger injury.
No, 100%. And I think that's so interesting going back to also too when you said that if you lose, you think that maybe what you were doing that could have helped you might be wrong. Do you think that's like I mean, obviously being a fighter, do you think that's a huge reason why maybe fighters ignore red flags? You know, if their body's telling them they're in pain, they're trying to work through an injury, they just want to stick to what's worked and it's only after a loss that they consider trialing something different?
Absolutely. We're very superstitious in a lot of ways. You know, a huge part of the fight game and being a fighter and being able to arrive on like how you arrived on your greatest night of competition, you get very superstitious about it. Like if I go out there and I have a great performance, then everything I did in that camp, even, no matter what it is, I want to just completely copy it and then bring it to the next training camp. But every camp brings a different aspect of it. Every camp is a little bit different, and that's what you have to remember as an athlete. Every camp is a little different, and you have to be able to make up for the little nuances in the differences in the camp.
No, I think that's a good point. At any point did you have because I feel like the Performance Institute was definitely not a thing when you were at your prime. Did you utilize anyone in terms of strength conditioning, nutrition, or was that something that you kind of always handled on your own?
No, I utilize, I had John Chainberg.
Mhm.
John Chainberg was like one of the first strength conditioning coaches that would really made a name for himself. He was GSP's strength conditioning coach, and I trained with GSP. We kind of had a unit where it was TriStar, Albuquerque, New Mexico, at Jackson's camp,
Yep.
and in Colorado. And we all three of us would train together. But John Chainberg was our strength conditioning coach, and he was ahead of his time back then. As far as nutrition, it was always something I just kind of figured out on my own. I just, I just had it from cutting weight from wrestling. So I just kind of adopted the same things that I did from wrestling. But then I improved it when I started to realize that what I ate actually mattered on how I performed. I was so into just competing, and I really wouldn't like I didn't realize that what I put in my body was having dramatic, not just a little bit, but was having dramatic effect on how I performed, because I was such an athlete that I could get away with not feeling my absolute best and still go out and have a great performance. But as I started to get older and as the competition got better, it required more from me, and the requiring that I had to really bring into to the forefront was my conditioning. And I figured a big part of my conditioning was what I was putting into my body, because I knew I was in shape, but I wasn't burning the proper fuel.
Do you think that because like at what age did that kind of start happening for you when you were just like, oh shit, like this is not the same anymore?
I would say it was when I was like maybe 27, 28 years old. I
Okay.
think I was like maybe 3 years into the UFC, and I started to get a little bit more serious when I started to move up in competition. I'm fighting, bigger names, and I got, I think it was when I had my first main event spot. I started to realize I needed to be a little bit more professional about things. I couldn't eat McDonald's after I got done from training anymore. I couldn't
I
hang
mean,
out
I
late.
don't want to hear that. When did you, I mean, I know you kind of have these comebacks every now and then, but when did you officially
Yeah.
retire? When was that again?
I officially retired from the UFC in 2018.
Okay. So do you think that if you had the mentality of taking better care of your nutrition and your recovery and all of those things when you were younger, do you think that would have extended your career a little bit, or do you think you still would have kind of tapped out around the same time?
No, it definitely would have extended my career a lot. I feel like, and that's the reason why, when you said, when did you retire, is because I had a couple iterations of coming back, because of the fact that I got things in order, my body started to feel good, and it allowed me to say, hey, wait, maybe I still do got a little bit left in the tank, because my body's feeling good, because I take care of my body the way that it does now. It has me feeling different. But
Hmm.
when I was contemplating retiring, and when I did retire, was because I just wasn't able to. I felt like I reached a point in competition where it wasn't fun, and it primarily wasn't fun because of the fact that my body wasn't feeling good.
Yeah.
I had a ACL injury that I had two surgeries on,
Oof.
that that never felt like it was fully healed. It never felt like it was strong enough. And that was one of the things that for me was a nagging thing that I kept having to go back to. I couldn't do all the things that I used to do before. Movement was a big part of the way I fought. So when I wasn't able to move the way that I used to move, it was so bothersome to me, and it was, something that I felt took away from my overall game. I definitely feel like if I would have, taken better care of my nutrition and just, being able to understand it from this is what your body needs for an inflammation factor. You got to avoid these foods to, get rid of this inflammation, cut back on the sugar, do all the things that I started to do later on that, really completely changed my ability to perform and be able to compete with guys that are half my age.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you do now that are wildly different that you would say that contributes to your ability to still be really active the way you are now and, you know, get back into some of these fights
Yeah.
and still perform at a high level? Because I mean, that's to be the forever athlete is really huge. And I feel like a sport like fighting, like you said, it does so much damage to your body that, at some point early on, there's no way to keep it up. But we're seeing athletes really push the limits nowadays. I feel like
Yeah.
Simone Biles is a great example. Gymnast would be retired at the age of 16 and she's what, like 25, 26
Yeah.
now, like competing in the Olympics. So for you, what were those big things that you do now to take care of your body?
I listen to my body. That's one of the biggest things that I do that has really completely changed my ability to do what I'm doing. But also, I really treat my body in a way that I treat it luxurious, to be honest. I'm doing all the recoveries that I can for it. I do hyperbaric, I do IVs, I do red light therapy. I do those kind of things, but at the same time, I do a lot of low impact things,
Okay.
a lot of low impact things, and I stretch. I stretch. I do little things that allow me to build up the strength that I need in a way that is not stressing the body. I got a rebounding machine that I do, not machine, but a rebounder that I jump on, and I do that quite a bit.
Rebound
So it's like a little trampoline, but it's like a smaller one.
in the
You
morning.
see, yeah, see, you're like, what is that? How old are you?
I've always
Rashad,
seen people
exactly
do that
how
in the
old are
movies.
you? How old are you exactly? So,
Old man techniques that keep you alive forever. Jump on a
yeah,
trampoline.
I'm telling you, yeah, jump on a trampoline. The rebounder has been really good because not only does it help flush the lymphatic system, right?
Mhm.
Because there's no pump for the lymphatic system. So jumping up and down is one of the things that helps keep the lymphatic system uh, fully functionally flowing, right?
Mhm.
But it also helps me to get that bounce. As a fighter, one of the things that you lose first, and even as an athlete in general, you lose your legs first. Your legs are the first thing to go, and the legs kind of lose coordination, and they lose their explosiveness, and they lose their springiness. So I do a lot of trampoline. So that way it's a really good low impact way for me to keep the strength of my leg and continue to build upon it on a way that is safe for me. You know,
Interesting.
I started to jump rope early in camp, and I really
Mhm.
wasn't in that kind of shape to be doing that because I haven't jumped rope in a while. And through doing that, I felt like I pulled a muscle. I had what's called I had tennis leg in both
Mhm.
of my calves to the point where I could barely walk.
Oh, wow.
I had to get PRP in it and everything, and it really at that point helped. Like the PRP helped it go away, but it took about a month of training away from me just because of the fact that I was over ambitious and I tried to push through something that I really didn't, you know, bring up to speed the right way.
Oh,
So
let's do that louder for the people in the back. Don't be so ambitious, you'll hurt yourself.
telling you, yeah. But that's the thing about it. Like even getting in shape in general, right? We get so over ambitious when we say, you know what, I'm gonna get in shape. And in our minds, we're thinking like, I'm gonna kick my ass. I'm gonna do what I need to do. And then we start off way too hard. And then we end up paying for it for the next several days. And then the first thing we do is like, you know what? I ain't gonna do that again. So then we just stop. So then we just stop doing it, and then we just continue to fall down that hole. But we continue to tell ourselves that one day we're gonna get back into it. So
Yeah,
what I learned is that slow and steady wins the race, and just
100%.
and just consistency over everything. If I only can do half of what I thought I could do, that's great for me to start off with because eventually I keep doing that half, and then that half is gonna feel like nothing. and then I'm going to be able to up my output without even trying. And that's what it's about when you're talking about the gains. It's talking about being able to up whatever you're able to do without even trying, without it being any effort.
Absolutely. What about nutritionally? I mean, I know what your diet is like, but I think it's so interesting because
Yeah.
you're vegan, right? Or
Yeah.
vegetarian?
Vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian.
Vegetarian, yeah. When did
Yeah.
because I don't think I asked you. At what point have you always been vegetarian, or what point did you go
Um,
vegetarian?
I, I was more of a vegan, like I didn't eat any kind of animal products at all, but now I'll have some eggs
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, a little bit of milk, but I really don't even, I'll have more like goat milk than anything. But, I started to become a vegetarian vegan because of like a spiritual situation that I had,
Yeah.
and after that, it was kind of revealed to me that I needed to do that in order to bring out my best self. So I did it, and it really wasn't hard for me to do at all. But one thing I did have a problem with was being able to manage my caloric intake when I was training hard. That became very hard for me to do in the beginning because I was used to having those fast foods that I'll be able to eat, those go-to meals, and there was really filling meals when I wasn't a vegetarian. Once I learned that, and once I learned how to get the proper caloric intake, then it's no problem for me. So pretty much what I do is I'll make like a big pot of like potatoes, carrots, onions, and some greens. I'll put that like in a big pot, and I'll have that for like a few days. So like I'll have that, and I'll just have a bowl of it when I get done from training and stuff like that, and then I'll have some things around it like some eggs, and it'll be pretty hearty. It'll be pretty hard. Like I'll have a huge bowl of it, so I'm not hungry at all, and I'm not really feeling like I'm cutting any kind of weight. And I felt like my strength was I was continually getting stronger. I
Good.
didn't feel like I was losing any weight. If anything, I put on a little bit more weight than I wanted to. But I added more fruits to the diet, and just a lot of cleaner eating. But overall, it's more or less just me being conscious of what I'm putting into my body, being really conscious and being really particular what I put into my body. I feel has been the biggest difference of my body feeling the way that it does feel. Because when you put so much thought into what you put into your body, you realize that what you put into your body matters. And I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds like duh, but you
I only
wouldn't
am telling every
believe
single person I work with.
how mindlessly we just put things into our body and not think that it's going to have the effect that it has.
Yep.
A lot of times people say I feel a certain kind of way, but they never even equate what they ate. They don't even equate it. It's not even a thought in their mind like, oh well, what did you eat? And they're like, well, I mean, I ate what I always ate, but they don't think about it because sometimes we're just mindless consumers sometimes. But that's one of the biggest things that me becoming a vegetarian has done for me. It has helped me to understand nutrition in a different way and be more cognizant of what I put into my body. A
Yeah.
lot of people like, no, you're not getting enough protein. And I'm like, well, I think the whole protein thing is it's a myth to me because like when you eat protein, your body has to break the protein down and break it into branched chain amino acids in order for your body to be able to make its own protein. When you eat protein, you're not getting the protein that is in the steak. Your body has to break all that protein down, and then it has to reformat it into branched chain amino acids for your body to make its own protein. So really all you really need to do is just make sure you have the amino acids available for your body to have to make its own protein anyways.
Well, I mean, yeah, to that point, that could be a whole discussion in and of itself. No, I mean, to be vegan or vegetarian, you can still achieve, it's more about the quality, right? Because your body, there's certain proteins that your body can't produce on its own. But to your point, like your body can make proteins. There's just certain ones that it can't produce on its own, which is why you have to eat it from food. It's like why we call essential nutrients. Sometimes there is like, a digestibility factor to it that it's tougher to break down sometimes. But if you are just getting the right combinations of different foods that have those essential, what we call amino acids for your body to make the proteins in the muscle, then you're getting everything that you need.
Right. Yeah, because I mean I take BCAs. I take amino branched chain amino acids. I take those and I have like this. I take those kind of things, right? I take those kind of supplements just in case my body's not getting the right branched chain amino acids from the vegetables that I'm eating, right?
Mhm.
So I do that, but I mean, I feel like I don't need to eat a steak,
Yeah.
and then I do supplement L-carnitine and things like that, so I'm able to be able to get, the energy and be able to get all the kind of things that I need to get.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you're talking to a girl who's got a Spanish background. All I'm eating is steak. So if you made me go vegetarian, I would cry. I would be like, what are
Me,
you doing to me?
yeah.
But so like, I mean, because now, do you have anything coming up anytime soon? You kind of getting back into any sort of fights
Well,
or
well,
training?
I was actually supposed to do a fight with Rampage. We were scheduled to do a fight,
That's
but
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, we were scheduled to do one April 12th, and I was in great shape. My body was feeling good. I'm actually just fresh off of training camp. The fight didn't happen, but we were looking to set it up and do something potentially later on this year. Providing that everything works out. Yeah, we just
Which
got
is
to get with the
crazy.
promotion.
Yeah.
I know. It's crazy. It's such a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to, still physically be able to do it and still physically be able to do it to the point where, um, I'm able to enjoy it and I'm able to, uh, you know, benefit from the new understanding of what it means to physically peak your body. I work with, a doctor out here, Dr. Phil Defina, over in Delray, and he has what's called the Brain Institute, and the Brain Institute has been phenomenal. They have all kinds of things for your brain health,
Oh
all
wow.
kinds of yeah. So it's so comprehensive, and it's just like it has taken my training to the next level because 2 or 3 days out of the week I'm there at the Brain Institute. Just getting treatment, and then I'm able to train around that, and it's such a perfect balance because I'm going to training and I'm feeling fresh, I'm feeling revived, and my body isn't feeling beat up like it does by the end of the week. It doesn't matter for me. It's like I only need it. My recovery time is it is like how it was when I was younger. So it's been something to me that I'm like, damn, how far can I really push this? Being the fact
No,
that I have this tool at my side now.
that is incredible. I mean, well, that's why I brought you on for this episode, right? Talking about longevity in the sport. I mean, you're
Yeah,
still doing it. That's okay. You gotta text me the info for that. I want to check that place out. That sounds awesome. I didn't know
yeah,
about
yeah. One of these days, we can go out there I'll introduce you to Dr. Defina,
that. Oh,
and
hell
you can
yeah.
do like a little walkthrough where you can just kind of show everybody what it truly means and what athletes are doing and what people are doing. Not even just athletes, people are doing just for longevity in general because
100%.
it's a clinic that does everything. Like it does, like he had a full panel on my whole entire health profile, with stool samples, urinalysis, every single thing, blood,
Wow.
everything. Yeah, it was a really in-depth testing, so he knew where I was at, brain scans, all kinds of things. So that's the kind of thing that I've been doing to kind of stay in shape to make sure that I can still do this because it's fun to do this, and I'm sure there is going to be, some wear and tear on the body above average, of course, doing what I'm doing, but I want to be able to stave off any kind of serious impact that this have on my body as much as possible by doing the things like this, because even if I wasn't continuously competing, I would want to do something to maybe help my body from everything I have put it through in the past.
No, 100%. Is there anything that you wouldn't mind sharing that after doing all that testing that kind of either showed maybe some of that long-term damage that through all those years of fighting and or crash dieting and eating bad that kind of was like a come to light moment that, and is there anything that helped you change drastically what you're doing now for all your training?
No, I was really surprised. I was
Oh,
relatively in really good shape. Like I haven't had like my cognitive health was on point. My memory was on point. We did memory tests. It was above average, and he was surprised how my memory was. He was like, "Yeah, I can't believe you're scoring higher than most people do on it." And now I was really surprised about
and
that.
I haven't been
But
punched in the face as much.
yeah, that was that's why he
Rashad,
was so
that's saying
surprised.
something. That's saying
Yeah,
something.
he was surprised. He was like, Like his mind, like he was really in shock of how good my memory was, and my cognitive ability just based on what I've done and just the average person. So I was above average in that. So I was really surprised about that. But physically speaking, my body was in pretty good shape.
That's incredible. That really is.
Yeah,
So, okay, so now, like, because where you're at now and looking back on your career, because I feel like MMA fighters, they're definitely adopting newer mentalities in terms of getting a nutritionist, doing the recovery. The Performance Institute, Charles over there, I feel has definitely contributed largely to that. Boxing, in my experience, is still very old school. Have yet to
yeah.
kind of come up to speed. So if you were kind of talking to younger fighters or earlier in their career, their professional careers, who are kind of stuck in that, grind till you break mentality, what would you say to them now, knowing where they are and why they think that way and what you've experienced? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that they have to listen to their bodies and they need to rest more than what they think they do. I would tell them to do maybe every other day going live. I would feel like to every 1 to 2 days that you go live, you need a full day off, a full day off or a day of just technique. So if you're going to go live 4 times a week, then the rest of the 3 days need to be one day off, and then the 2 other days maybe technical, maybe something low impact, like taking a walk. Maybe doing some hand-eye coordination drill, something to get your heart rate up a little bit, but nothing that's going to physically stress you. Because when you're young, you feel that the more you do, the more impact you have, the more it's going to play off in a fight. And what you don't realize is that you only have so many strikes to take. You don't want to take them in practice when you're
That's
not getting paid.
that's
You know
fair.
what I'm saying?
That is fair.
You don't want to take them in practice. You know, you ain't getting paid. Yeah, because I mean the thing about it is it's like when you're young, you want to prove that you're tough. A big reason, you want to prove that you're the top dog, you're the alpha dog, and that comes in a lot of forms. That comes with, you know, the fight promotion calling you and you taking a fight that may not be in your best interest, but you feel like you're the big dog, so you can take it anyways because you're the best. Or it comes in a form of, being in practice and wanting to raise your leg on everybody in practice and not realize that, yo, you know what? I'm gonna be more tactical in my sparring today. I'm gonna get with somebody who's on the same level as me. And having a good training partner is a key. You have a good training partner who you guys have a good rapport with each other, that, there's times where you get intense, but at the same time, they understand you to the point where, okay, we working today. And then you guys work and you do drills. I will tell a young fighter, you learn more from drill sparring than you do going live. Some things you can't avoid but go live with, and that's part of the whole fight game, right? But when it comes to striking and when it comes to transitions, which is the most important part of fighting in MMA, is the transition from one discipline to the next. You do your best work and you do your best mastering of those skills when you're able to do it at a drill pace. Because when you're able to do it at a drill pace, you work on all the nuances that's going to make it work, that's going to make it unstoppable. But if you're worried about getting punched in the face and you're worried about, not having success when you're doing it, then you're rushing through it. And then you may do it and you may do it, but you may not really understand how you did it because you went through it so fast. So there's a lot of things that when I work with my younger guys, sometimes they get annoyed because I'm like, yo, listen, we're gonna peel it back a little bit and we're gonna do like some technical stuff. Now technical stuff doesn't mean that it's easy, right? Because there's a way that we do like our drill sparring where it actually is more laborious than you would if you were doing full contact sparring, but it's less impact and you're not taking those big shots and you're getting a good muscle memory and you're getting a good timing.
But it just doesn't feel mentally as hard for them. So they wanna they wanna ramp it up.
They want to wrap it up.
So
Yep.
to your point, be patient, take things slow. The fastest person to the finish line isn't going to be the one that's always going to win in the long run.
Nah, it's not. It's about longevity in this game. It's about longevity in this game. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You see guys in their career, they have many ups and downs, and then they hit a peak and they just figure it out. And then they're unstoppable. They go on runs. Those are guys who just were patient with themselves. They had, maybe a few setbacks that really made them sit back and assess everything they were doing in their game and had to reformat what they were doing, and then it came back unstoppable.
Before we wrap things up, I do want to pivot to one more topic because it just popped in my head. So, like, we're talking about all of this longevity, being patient, like resting your body. What would be your advice to someone with all of that, like coming off of a loss? Because in
Hmm.
my experience, when I'm working with guys, even girls, even if they took minimal damage in the fight, they're so eager to immediately get back into camp and just push themselves even harder because of that loss. Instead of, what they need to do is just give themselves a proper rest. And I mean, I've had like one girl comes to mind, I won't name her, but 3 losses back to back, but it was again back to back fight camps. She wasn't able to cut weight, she was feeling miserable, and I'm just like, you need a rest. Like your body can't sustain this level of intensity for this long. Like you need to give yourself some time. So coming off a loss, like obviously you've had losses in your career, that mentality, what would you say to that?
You know, when you have a loss, the best thing you need to do is, rather than try to jump back into it physically, you need to go back and find a black box. Like when the plane crashed and there's always a black box to tell you what happened when the plane went down. Well, you need to go back and find that proverbial black box. And you really need to do that because it's mentally that you really need to assess. It's mentally that you really need to just, you know, get your mind around what needs to be done. Because when you lose, there's always a reason, right? There's always a reason that you could find. And the less fingers that you can point out at anybody else, the better. When you lose, you have to do the self reflection. You have to do the look inside yourself. No matter what, at the end of the day, it was you that was inside that cage that lost the fight. No matter how much your coach may seem like he's sad, nobody's sadder than you than losing that fight. Nobody lost more than you by losing that fight. And you have to be able to sit with yourself with that fact and be like, you know what? Damn, I didn't get it done today. I didn't get it done last week or whenever it may be. And you got to accept it. You got to look at the film and you have to be critical on yourself to be like, you know what? I need to do this and I need to do that. But the reality of the situation is, most of the time you lose, you were already losing before when you were winning. And by that, I mean this. Sometimes your losses are baked into your wins because you get away with doing things that could have lost you that fight, but because you got your hand raised, you didn't go back and you didn't look at that thing. But
It's
then one
poetic.
day, I'm telling you, yeah, but then one day,
Mhm.
that thing that you didn't pay attention to when you won ends up being the thing that costs you in your next fight. So you have to go through and look at everything, whether you win or whether you lose, and you have to work on your deficiencies. But being accountable is the most important thing. And that accountability doesn't mean you have to run back into the gym and, beat your body up some more. Sometimes the accountability just takes with you getting some things together in your life.
Mhm.
Maybe
Oh,
you're causing yourself too much trauma outside the cage. Maybe you're not eating right. Maybe you're not sleeping enough. Maybe you're allowing, a bad habit to take precedent, and you're thinking that you can, outsmart the system, but you can't outsmart it. You know what I'm saying? It will find you.
no,
And
100.
if you're not doing what you need to do, and each and every single person, what you're doing that you shouldn't be doing, that's causing you to lose or cause you to lose, just stop it. But you gotta be willing enough to look at it and be honest with yourself. Honesty is going to bring you out of that loss. And once you honestly assess what you need to do, no need to go crazy. Just do what needs to be done.
Yeah,
Take actions to make it so that it doesn't happen again.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's if you fight everything in your life, it's only going to attack you later.
Yep.
But I love it. Okay, so your deficiencies, not only in your losses, but potentially in your wins, can
Hmm.
contribute to a bigger loss down the road. Longevity is not only in physical recovery, but the mental recovery as well.
Yeah.
Three, ability. I feel like everyone wants to do the blame game, especially in this sport. That's a huge part of it, is definitely,
Yeah.
they're not taking responsibility for not only the things that they've done right, but maybe they're doing wrong and could have done a little bit better.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's the little things, how you're eating, how you're sleeping, the extra stressors you have, whether that's personal relationships, a job, whatever is going on. It all definitely contributes to, you as a person and, you as an athlete, if you want to
Yeah.
perform at a really high level. So I think that's awesome.
And also the self-talk. How are you talking to yourself? What are you telling yourself? How much do you truly believe in yourself? You can't be out there competing against people who think they're unstoppable. Meanwhile, you're just kind of like, you have this you put yourself down in order for you to have an excuse just in case it doesn't go well. Some people do it just because they're, trying to not take it so serious. But at the same time, you have to realize that this is a mental game. John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. Of course, he has some amazing tools, right? But there's something mentally that he does different than everybody else. He has this belief in himself that is unshakable. It's unshakable. It could be narcissistic, whatever psychological term you want to put to it, it could be that. But when it comes down to it, he has an indomitable spirit because of it. His life can be in a dumpster fire on the outside, but when it comes to him stepping into that cage, he's unbeatable. And that's a strong mentality. And that to me is why he's the greatest of all time. People can say that, he has all these asterisks next to his name because X, Y, and Z. But to me, I know what it's like to go into a fight with life being a mess. And I know how hard it is to compete when life being a mess. And he does it anyways. So you have to be able to have a self-talk that allows yourself to truly have a almost crazy belief in yourself. Like Conor McGregor had when he first jumped on the scene. He had such a belief in himself, it was on the verge of lunacy.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But
you have to
then
be kind of a lunatic to be in this sport.
you gotta be a lunatic,
It's
right?
not for the faint of heart.
You gotta be a lunatic. You gotta be a lunatic, and that's you gotta tap into. You gotta tap into that lunacy, right? You
No.
gotta have that belief in yourself that other people think that you're crazy.
I mean, there's something to be said to it. And the mentality is, what takes over. And I think what helps persevere, but to the point of everything that we've been talking about, it's all the little things that help hold that up.
Yeah.
Because once you start to lose the edge and all the things that build your foundation, then your mentality will start to break too, because that all
Hmm.
affects it. So, but yeah, no, and to wrap that all up, you do have to be fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But that kind of wraps things up for today. Rashad, I love you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining. I know that I mean, everyone knows how to find you on social media, so I don't think we need to plug in any handles, but your mushroom business, I know you got some side gigs going
Yeah.
on. If there's anything that you want to promote and we can add in the episode for people to check out.
Yeah, one of the biggest things for my longevity that helped me out was just the neurological reboot that I have. And the neurological reboot is pretty much based around the help that I've felt and from functional mushrooms, lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, turkey tail, chaga, all of the above have played a tremendous part in me feeling the way that I do today. So if you want to feel good today and you want to check out what functional mushrooms can do to you, go over to getumble.com and see what we have in store.
I love it. I was like the perfect infomercial. Selling that. And if you want to combine that with some incredible nutritional support, you can download my 6-week meal plans catered exactly to everything a fighter needs. But no, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. We need to catch up on a personal note sometime soon. But if you guys really like this episode, like it, share it, comment, make me famous. Rashad's already famous. It's my turn now.
You got it. Let's make Jackie famous.
Let's do it. Stay tuned for next week. We'll have another great episode. And thank you guys so much for listening.